Hey everyone, it's Blue. I'm back and I want to make another video. This one is going to be specifically about your rotation, about the Pharaoh rotation, everything and anything you need to know about the Pharaoh rotation, because if you are not doing it correctly, your DPS is going to suffer. So unfortunately, that's just the case. It doesn't matter about your gear. Pharaoh is a spec that you need to do a proper rotation. Um, and every time you mess it up, your DPS falls a little bit. Okay, so let's go into it. This is a single target build right now. For most of the Uldir fights, you will see that the highest DPS for Feral, they're probably going Incarnation King of Jungle. They're probably doing a slightly different build, maybe even Blood Scent Incarnation. And the reason because of that is they're crushing the fights. Okay, so whatever the guild they're with, they're getting the fight done with really quickly. Probably before, they probably using this like twice, and it's just like they're exploding with it, and maybe like the fight's only 5 minutes long. So Incarnation, extremely strong for these really short fights. But other than that, this is probably going to be your single target build, unless you're pushing charts, parsing, trying to get the best damage. So this is what it's going to be, and this is also going to be progression. So this is where we're going to go over. If you do not have Lunar Inspiration, no problem. It's just going to be the same rotation, except you're filling with your Shred instead of using Lunar Inspiration. Okay, so now that we go over the talents, the most important thing that we need to see here is Blood Talons. Okay, so Blood Talons, you regrowth, an instant regrowth, and your next two melee abilities do 25% increased damage. So extremely strong, and these are especially for our Bloods. And since we're doing Sabertooth, this is going to affect our Rip and our Ferocious Bite in one. So very strong, being able to talent these two individually, specifically. So how is our rotation going to look? First of all, if it's a boss, if we're talking about just a straight boss, like we have a pull timer and everything, this is how it's going to look. We're going to open up with regrowth, because we want to get our procs. So right here, I have two Blood Talons. These shows me that I have my Blood Talon timers. We're going to stealth. Of course, if you are potting, you would pot now before you pull. And what we want to do is we want to open up with a Tiger's Fury, which increases our damage. We want a Tiger's Fury into Rake, right? So I rake. Tiger's Fury, I rake. I'm going to fill with Moonfire until I'm full. And then I'm ripping. Okay? Now after this, it's just get all of my bleeds up. So the only other bleed that I didn't have on at the time was my Thrash. Okay? And then just go through the rotation. But what you need to understand is only in power, and when I mean in power, only Blood Talons your Rake and your Rip. So in this case, with this specific talent build, like we said, it's going to be your Rake and your Ferocious Bite. Those are the only ones that should be buffed. There is one specific occasion, and that's once you Berserk, and after that first rotation that you saw me do. So we'll go over it one more time. After that first rotation is when you Berserk. I had Berserked. I would pop all my cooldowns right before the fight begins, and I realized I'm wasting energy. I'm wasting it because I'm at full energy. It's just a waste to Berserk at that time. So we regrowth again. We're gonna stealth. I'm gonna pop my Tiger's Fury right before I rake. Rake. Moonfire. I already had a few. Moonfire. Now I'm gonna rip, right? I'm gonna thrash right away. And now, oh crap, my rake's about to fall off, so I'm going to regrowth, rake, and I'm going to fill with my Moonfire, and then finish it off. And then just filling. You will find out, oh, and I didn't even Berserk again, sorry. I'm not even being the best example here. I'll do one without going over it with like the full combo, so you can see it's going to be a little quick, but you'll see kind of what I'm doing here. This time I'll actually make sure to Berserk, and I'm going to make sure my combo points fall off as well, so you can see a proper rotation. So as you saw here, you will get used to your build. So like depending on how much haste and how much crit you have, It will depend. Certain times you will be in the middle of your rotation and you will need to refresh your rake. Okay, and if that is the case, on 3 you rake, and the next 4 and 5 you moonfire. Do not shred. Do not waste your regrowth, your blood talents on a shred. That is your weakest ability. One is because shred is not performing that great right now, but do not do it. And since it is a melee ability that increased damage, oh wait, 2 melee abilities, right? Moonfire is not a melee ability. So this is a way to get through your rotation and not use a regrow or not use blood talents. Okay, so let's go it again. I will show you my full rotation as if I was doing a boss fight. We'll even do this. Wait for my pandemic to fall. Okay, see now I'm at a tough spot, so I'm just gonna, I don't want to, want it to fall a little bit. Boom, okay. Okay, so there you saw it. So as you can see, there was a tough spot, and I tell you, that it happens with Berserk, where it's just like, oh crap, I don't want to refresh my rake right away because my cooldown is so high. It's not at the pandemic value, and you can see my pandemic value is represented by these lines right here. So it was right up here. In that case, I can sneak through the rotation and empower a Thrash or empower a Shred, and then towards the end of my rotation, sure, maybe on my 5th one, I can do my 5th one with an empowered Rake, and then an empowered Ferocious Bite. So it is different. You will find that your rotation gets a little bit funky sometimes. You need to get back on track, but do not waste your blood talents on anything else but your Rake and your Ferocious Bite, which does your rip. Okay, so that is that rotation. If you have Savage Roar, there is nothing specifically different about this one. You will wait a little bit longer to use your cooldowns. You're not going to use your cooldowns right off the bat because you have to work up your combo points to your Savage Roar. Does that make sense? So rotation, kind of similar. You just stall it a little bit until you have your Savage Roar up, which, let's see. Put my Savage Roar on my bars really quickly. So just open up, I'm stealthed, open up. I'm just going to Moonfire through the rotation so I can get through the rotation as quickly as possible and efficient as possible. Now that I have it up, I can even regrowth, rake, get my combo points off, and finally do my rip. And I neglected my Thrash, but there it is. So now it looks through my rotation. I'm going to rake, Moonfire, and still have my empowered Ferocious Bite. Oh, okay, which didn't reset. Yeah, of course, because you were supposed to. Instead of Ferocious Bite, I was supposed to rip. That's just being used to not using Savage Roar as much, but using Sabertooth. It will be a DPS loss if you go this route, as of right now, because Ferocious Bite is doing so much damage. You want to Ferocious Bite as much as you can, and that means not using this talent. But if you do that, it's going to be a lot more refreshing your rips, throwing a Ferocious Bite in there occasionally, but you do have to monitor the time of your abilities, right? Okay, so that is that. Let me put my regrowth back on my bars. So now, the only thing that has changed with this and ad fights. So let's talk about Mythic Plus. This might be a little bit different because of my gear. I am really high mastery. And the reason is because, check this out, a 390 piece, crit mastery, mostly mastery, it has so much mastery, right? I have seen a BIS 375 drop. It cannot beat this still. So I have it. I have the mastery. I also have some 380s with mastery on here. And those are terrible. I can replace my waste if I get these. So I'm trying to replace them, but right now I am very mastery heavy. This is alright though. This is great in Mythic Plus because my Rake is doing so much damage. Rake and Rip are doing so much more damage than usual compared to a crit build, but my Ferocious Bite is not. So single target, I'm lacking. AoE, I'm doing great. You might even want to think, if you are in Mythic Plus, you might be able to cheat it and do kind of what my build is and cheat it and have a little bit of mastery gear. What this will do is it will give you more AoE damage, but on single target fights you will be lacking. It will, because every time you're ferocious biting, it's not going to do as much damage, unfortunately, because you're missing those crits. You want those high crit values. So you will be suffering single target, but AoE you're doing great. So that means Gahoon. For me, Gahoon, all I do is I go around and I rake every single ad, rip every ad, rake every ad. And I'm doing so much damage because of my mastery. It's really fun, but single target I am lacking. But now, something to consider. Versus single target, when we go over to our AoE, our regrowth, our blood talons, is only going to be on rake. Okay, so I cast my my blood talons up. So I have my blood talons value enabled. All I'm going to do is open up with rake, 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 rip, empower, rake. I'm about to rake again. Do you see this? I'm not empowering any of my rips. Okay? And that's because look at all this damage. Rake is the damage. That's it. Maybe if I empowered a rip, it would have done okay, would have done a little bit more, but no. Rake is your AoE ability. Only empower your rakes. Makes it really easy because you don't have to like worry about your rotation. You can do a rake whenever you want. So that's how it should be. Just rakes and rips. It is a little bit tougher though because, like I said, your Ferocious Bite is your top DPS ability, and instead of Ferocious Biting, you're throwing in your rips. And that depends. Like if these guys are full health, you will be ripping them. If they're not full health, you can Ferocious Bite, or you can say, hey, I don't really like the rip. Maybe I'm just going to Ferocious Bite, so I'm going to rake everything up, Ferocious Bite, because it does a lot of damage, right? Rake. Oh, I got to empower, power, rake. I have a rake left. Ferocious Bite. Yeah, it's not bad. It's not a bad idea actually. So, I mean, but you will have to figure it out what works for you and your abilities. If you are properly geared with a little bit more crit than me, then you might not even want to rip, depending on how healthy the target is and how long it's going to survive. That might be an option for you. Ferocious Bite was performing pretty well for me. But that's it. That's the rotation. I hope you guys... I hope you enjoyed the video. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through a full rotation. I'm going to do a full ability of Berserk, and you can kind of see a little bit of what I do and how I deal with certain mechanics, maybe being my rake a little off. But as some of you that are unfamiliar with me in my weak ores, right here, this is my rake cooldown. On the other side is my thrash. This inner side right here will be my rip. This outer side will be my moonfire, okay? So you can see, and here's my times, and here are the pandemic values. So as I approach this, you will be a little bit familiar with what I'm doing. Hey, bud. The baby just came in. A little bit familiar with what I'm doing and how you can go about the rotation. It's okay. Alright, so it's taking a while for my dots to fall off, so unfortunately we're just going to go with it like that. On that specific occasion, I should have just went through a rotation like I'm about to do. So now I'm going to refresh her in the middle. Moonfire to fill it. So now my rake's a little bit off from what it normally is, but I'll just do it at the end right here. My Tiger's Fury is about off cooldown, so I wanted to make sure I do that. I'm going to Moonfire. And still I had enough time. My Tiger's Fury is about off cooldown, so I'm going to wait. I'm going to Moonfire before I refresh this because there's enough time still. And this one's up. So this is a weird occasion. I don't have any cooldown, so I am going to wait for this. But I maybe could have done a rake. So now it's still kind of high. But my energy's still fine, so just kind of pooling my energy there. I'm gonna rip, or I empowered my Thrash, sorry. Just because I knew I could make it through the rotation pretty well, and I still am able to empower that one. This one's pretty good, winds up really well. Refresh with the Moonfire. Some of my spells are missing. But that's it. I really hope you enjoyed the video. Hopefully this helped you. Oh, look, my Ferocious Bite's doing pretty good damage. Usually it's the other way around. It should be your Ferocious Bite. I did get a piece of gear that raised my crit value a little bit. But my mastery is so high, my rip is really close, and it shouldn't even be that way. Before, my rip was even like more damage. But that's how it is. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Please let me know if it helped, and if you do have any questions, I would leave a comment. I've also Discorded with a few individuals. I really enjoy that. If you need it, I'll just hit you up in game. I'll tell you what my game times are, and then I'll hit you up in game. I'll give you the Discord, and we can walk through it together. Even if you're Alliance, we'll just go on Discord, and we'll talk about your rotation. But that's it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you are struggling, practice. It really does help. But that's it. Take it easy, guys. Appreciate it.